I'm Christopher Assaro, president of Holt Construction. I'm proud to announce that the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, in partnership with American Airlines, URW Airports, has announced a $125 million commercial redevelopment of JFK's Terminal 8. As the project's construction partner, Holt Construction is pleased to partner with URW to introduce our new information and technical assistance program designed to connect you to opportunities available across the 24-month redevelopment of Terminal 8, all part of the Port Authority's $19 billion airport redevelopment program that is transforming New York's airport system. Working with our partners at the Port Authority, American Airlines, URW, and Phoenix Infrastructure, we have designed a special series of programs that will help you learn more about the project, the business and contracting opportunities that are right for your company, and how your business can participate. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to partnering together.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session on understanding insurance. Insurance, especially construction insurance, can be daunting. This session will cover what types of coverages are required for the Terminal 8 project. It will also review common exclusions and how a reduced premium may impact your coverage. Hear from one of the area's leading construction insurance professionals and get all your insurance-related questions answered. Now let's meet our panelists.
Hi, my name is Robert DiBiase. I'm Executive Vice President and National Director for Construction Services here in New York for Alliant.
Hi, I'm Nikki Marcano. I'm the Contracts Manager with Holt Construction.
Wonderful. So now let's start with some insurance questions related to Holt and the T8 project. So Nikki, what are the specific types of insurance coverages that are mandatory for the Terminal 8 project?
Sure. So we will require general liability, workers' comp, auto, and umbrella liability insurance coverages.
Great. And how much coverage for each type do contractors need to carry?
Sure. So we will require 1 over 2 million for a GL, 5 million for umbrella, 1 million for auto, 1 million for workers' comp, which is the statutory limit in New York.
Great. And when does Holt require COIs to be submitted?
Well, typically when we vet the subs at the pre-qual stage, we will request their COI and the policy documents. We also require a project-specific insurance certificate upon award.
Okay, great. And can you tell us a little bit about Holt's insurance requirements for the pre-qualification process?
Sure. So we'll look to see that you have the required coverages as stated before. We'll ask for a sample COI. We'll ask to see your policies, and we'll have your broker complete a COI packet. And Rob DiBiase can, touch on that a little bit more in his portion.
Yeah, I can add to that now. The key for us with regard to the pre-qualification for subcontract is very simple. Provide a standard sample certificate of insurance and your general liability, workers' compensation, umbrella, and auto policies. New York is very difficult with regard to coverages, especially for labor law. So we need to make sure that your general liability, umbrella liability policies will provide coverage for labor law, third-party action over covers. And that's the reason we're asking for those policies.
Wonderful. Okay, Rob, so let's start with the basics. What is a certificate of insurance, aka a COI?
A certificate of insurance, very straightforward. It's an evidence of coverage that you have in place at any time and moment. So today, you have a certificate of insurance issued that shows your effective date, expiration date, your carrier, your limits of coverage, and who the certificate holder is. So for example, if it were Holt Construction would be listed as the certificate holder. That gives the person that is in contract with you at least a starting point to understand what coverages you have in place as a subcontractor.
Great. And who's protected under an insurance policy?
An insurance policy, for example, well, I'll start with a general liability and an umbrella liability. Those are third-party liability policies. And what I mean by that is it covers your work and potential injuries to third parties, people other than yourself. So if a beam falls or something were to fall at a job site and hit somebody, there's property damage or bodily injury to others that are covered under the general liability policy. Workers' compensation policy is injury to you as the employee. So any employee that gets injured is covered under a workers' compensation policy.
Great. And how often does a subcontractor need to submit a COI to a general contractor?
The typical process for a COI or evidence of insurance would be annually for a pre-qualification. So typically Holt will do an annual pre-qual based on your renewal date of coverage. So if you renew January 1st, you would be getting a pre-qualification packet probably in the 60 days ahead of that, November, December of the prior year. When your insurance is renewed, you would submit a certificate of insurance for a pre-qual. The second time you'll have to provide a certificate of insurance is on contract award, because the specifics to the contract need to be highlighted and included on that certificate of insurance.
Great. Now this is one I hear a lot. What is a waiver of subrogation?
So a waiver of subrogation is the easiest way to say it is you are, as a subcontractor, signing away the ability for someone to come back and seek damages from the general contractor's existing policy. Typically, a waiver of subrogation happens mostly on builder's risk property coverages when and if they can't determine who is at fault. So I'll give an example. A pipe bursts on a job site and floods the floors. We don't know how the pipe burst. We don't know who burst the pipe. We don't know any of the extent of it. There wasn't somebody there when it happened. The insurance policy is going to pay. Typically, an insurance policy then subrogates to the responsible party. A waiver of subrogation basically says, sorry, Mr. Insurance Company, you're paying, nobody else is paying, because we can't really figure out who it is. We don't want to get into a legal battle between 2 or 3 or 4 different insurance companies and spend money. You're paying the policy, you're paying the loss, and we move on from there. So a waiver of subrogation actually helps simplify the process with regard to claims being paid.
Okay, great. What does a subcontractor do if they don't have the required insurance that is necessary for the job?
Great question. So Holt is very open-minded and really wants to be helpful to any and all subcontractors to try to do business with us. And what I mean by that is, if you have a general liability policy and you don't have an umbrella policy, what I would ask or ask you to do when you submit your pre-qual is just write a letter to Holt saying, we do not have an umbrella at this time. If we are awarded a project with Holt, we understand we need to get an umbrella, and we'll do so at award. It allows you as a subcontractor to be user-friendly for Holt so that their estimators know exactly that you're willing to adhere to the coverages that are required. And at this time, we know that you don't have the coverage, so you can still be included to bid.
Wonderful. How is an insurance premium calculated?
Insurance premiums are calculated in a number of different ways. So for general liability, it's either sales revenue or payroll. So they take your sales and revenue, divide it by 1,000, multiply it by a rate, and that's your premium. There's an audit done each and every year, whether it be on payroll or sales for general liability. Umbrellas are a percentage of the general liability as a percentage of premium, and are typically flat, meaning they are not auditable. There are general liability policies in this space that are auditable. So from time to time, you may, as a subcontractor, have an auditable umbrella policy similar to the general liability policy. Workers' compensation is a straight payroll audit. So they cap payrolls in the city of New York and the state of New York. So you would cap your payrolls. Don't quote me on the exact amount. It's somewhere around $1,350 per week for capped payrolls. And then that would be divided by per 100, and you would pay a rate by the per $100 for workers' compensation.
Wonderful. And how does an EMR affect a company's premium? And can a subcontractor affect their EMR in a positive direction?
This is really an interesting question, and I appreciate this question because EMR is experience modification rating. It's different for each class of business. So each type of contractor has a specific calculation based on their type of work, based on the premiums paid. An EMR is either negative or positive. So you have, and I'll call it a debit mod or a credit mod. So 1.0 is unity, meaning even. There's no additional charges or credits. If you're over 1, you have a debit mod, meaning you are charged additional cost or additional premium. So if your debit mod were 1.1, you would have a 10% charge on top of the manual rate premiums for insurance. So if insurance were $1, you'd pay $1.10. If your EMR is 0.9, instead of paying $1, you'd pay 90 cents. So there is a big advantage to be safe and having less workers' compensation losses. The one thing I will stress to everybody is EMR follows you on every job you're on. So if you're on an OSIP or a CSIP, your EMR follows you on that OSIP and CSIP work. So non-OSIP CSIP and OSIP CSIP work is included in the EMR on an annual basis.
That's extremely helpful. Now, what about contractors that work in more than one state? Let's say New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Is the EMR different per state?
Yes, it is. This is the confusing part. So there used to be a combined EMR in the state of New York. Last year, 2 years ago, 2022 was the last year where there was a combined EMR for New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. New Jersey has always had a separate EMR, so they did not participate in the NCCI, which is the National Compensation Council Information Bureau. That piece, New York went away with it. So now New York EMRs are separate and distinct from the NCCI. So every state right now in the metro area has their own EMR.
Got it. And what is the basic insurance a subcontractor should carry? What's best practices on that?
It's hard to say best practices. What I say is it's really dependent upon the type of work you're doing. So any subcontractor that is working at some sort of elevation, gravity related issues. So if you're working above head, if you're working below ground, if you're working on roofs, if you're working on the outside of buildings or exterior buildings, you should carry a higher umbrella limit than those that are working on the interior pieces, an insulation contractor, a painting contractor, things like that. So we tend as a broker to give different umbrella recommendations based on the type of work and based on the risks associated with that work. So the standard in New York is typically $2 million per occurrence, $4 million general liability. Holt is $1 million, $2 million because we do work outside of New York. So we have softened the requirement of the standard 2-4 in GL. And then typically $5 million or $10 million or $25 million umbrella. So a plumbing contractor, I would say, is probably somewhere between 5 or 10 million, depending upon the type of work they're doing. If you're a roofing contractor, I would tell you 10 million would be your minimum. Anybody that's involved with excavation, foundation, concrete, steel would be at a minimum $10 million of coverage. So it really is dependent upon a subcontractor. And I'd be happy to have conversations individually with people if they had questions on that. Certainly bring those up in the question and answer session, and I'll be happy to give you some guidance there.
Thank you for that. How should one choose their insurance company? What should they look for?
Well, price is always the determining factor, right? Everybody wants the least expensive product. And I say, yes, we want the least expensive product that affords us the proper coverage. So there's two pieces to it. You can buy an insurance policy and pay $1. It may not provide any coverage. So you've wasted your $1. You've put yourself in a problem area where your business could be at risk. What you need to really start with is buy from insurance companies that are selling insurance in New York specific to construction. Number one. Number two, you have to look at the rating of the carrier. So you want A+ being the top tier. A+ 15 would be the highest rated carrier. From Holt's requirements, just to understand you where you could go from A+ 15 and down. Our requirements are A-8 as a minimum. So there's A+, there's A-, so 2 steps down from the top, and then 15 down to 8. So financially, the credibility or the credit worthiness of a carrier starts at 15 from a size perspective financially, down to 1. We never want to be 1. So 7 or 8 and above is really where we want to go with regard to that.
How do you find out what someone's rating is?
You can look online. So if you plugged in a Google search or a search engine of the name of the insurance company and their AM Best rating, it will pop up on your screen what they are. Insurance companies have many different names, so you understand. So it does get confusing. So Travelers, for example, is Travelers, but they also have other names that you may see on an insurance policy. CNA, for example, has Transportation Insurance Company. It's an affiliated company of CNA, but it will still hold CNA's name. So that's the one thing I would say is if you put in the name that's on the certificate of insurance or on your policy, it will show on the AM Best rating for them and tell you if it's a subsidiary company of a larger organization.
Okay, wonderful. And can you outline the typical claims process for construction insurance, and how can project managers ensure a smooth and efficient claims resolution?
That's a very, very difficult question to answer on something like this, but I'll do my best to give you the basics of it. So a claims process in New York is very, very elongated. It could last from 1 month to 8 years. I don't want to belabor that, but there is drawn out circumstances in the state of New York that allow laws or claims to be processed. An accident could happen today. A claim doesn't have to be filed for a specific amount of time. It could be 12 months, 14 months, 24 months, 36 months. So the process for a claim, although it may have happened today, may not start for 3 years from now. So it's very difficult when you're on a job, when there's an accident that happens, for stability to return to a job site. So if there's a catastrophic event at a job site, the key from our perspective as the broker is to make sure that there's clear and concise communication between the subcontractor and the general contractor on the job. And if there's an issue that happens on your job, an incident should be reported. No matter how small they are, they should be reported to the project management team for the general contractor. Reason being is we want to be able to open a file and decide if we want to do some sort of due diligence or investigation work at the day of the incident, rather than 3 years from now when memories are not so good, when people aren't around, the job is finished, there's not everything clear and concise on the job site for us to get pictures and the like. So incident reporting is the best part of our subcontractors' job to help there be smooth and efficient claim resolution. So don't be afraid to report an incident. It's important. No matter how small it is, it's important to just let us know that it happened. And then we can allow the claim experts to make a decision if that has to be reviewed now, or if we can just put it in a box and know that it could come back to haunt us 2 or 3 years from now. I hope that's some sort of clarification for you. The second piece I would say is on the resolution side, I would just urge anyone, if you're involved in a claim, if you're a witness to a claim, cooperate and just answer emails or phone calls when you're called upon to answer those. It does help the process go a lot smoother. We want to make sure that the injured person is helped and taken care of. If we're not getting answers, it's hard to do that without becoming a little bit of a litigious situation with lawyers and the like. We want to eliminate the legal piece of it and really just get the injured worker back to work as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Wonderful. That was great. So thank you so much, Rob and Nikki, for this overview on insurance. And now we're going to turn it over to some live Q&A questions.